live broadcast from Canada, and I welcome you to it. My name is Sandra Asante. So today we'll be focusing on the causes of violence in the Western Ethiopia, as well as the term extension of Somalia's president. So don't go anywhere, I'll be back after the break. You're welcome back from the break. So we move straight to start off with the violence in Ethiopia. And while the world is focusing on humanitarian crisis in the northern Ethiopia caused by the war between the federal government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, brutal repetitive attacks had been placed in the Matakel zone of the Benishangul-Gumuz state in western Ethiopia. Some of the reasons for the attack include neighboring Amhara state's claim to the ownership of the Matakel zone. The Amhara state wants the right to administer Matakel because it wants to control the zone's mineral deposit and arable lands. Matakel residents, including the majority Gumuz community, are opposed to Amhara's occupation. There are also competing interest from actors in Sudan and Egypt who are opposed to be filling the ground Ethiopian Renaissance Dam in Matakel, and local elements who are unhappy with the formation of Ethiopia's new ruling Prosperity Party. Thousands have been killed and buried in mass graves, forced out of their homes, and properties looted and set ablaze. More than 100,000 people have been displaced and 7,000 people have fled to Sudan. Many of those who are still in the region are not getting humanitarian aid. The attacks by armed militia made from the Gumuz people against the Omoro, Amhara, Shinasha, and Ari residents of the Matakel escalated in September 2020 and continuing into March of 2021. The Gumuz are one of the indigenous group in Matakel. Some observers are now saying that the atrocities committed in Matakel are reaching Holocaust proportions. So now let's look at the questions that Amharas will be thinking of. I will be trying to figure out the answers on the out. The Matakel zone is one of the three zones in the Benishangul-Gumuz state. It borders the Amhara and Omoro states and Sudan as well. Its main inhabitants are the Gumuz, Omoro, Ari, Amhara, and Shinasha communities. Within the federal political arrangement, the Gumuz and the Shinasha control the 6 districts in the local administration structure. The other communities are not well represented in the local leadership framework, but back in 2003, the inter-ethnic relation in Matakel, people from different communities were anonymous in their desire to coexist peacefully. 18 years later, marginalization, economic exclusion, poor governance, and the absence of workable democratic mechanism have significantly affected community relations. Mufariat Kamel, Ethiopia's Minister of Peace, now says that the area has become a juncture for different interest groups. These interest groups include the actors from the neighboring Amhara states who claim ownership of the Matakel zone. This claim gained momentum after Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed assumed power in April 2018. The Amhara regional state and Amhara activist says that Matakel was forcibly included under the Benishangul-Gumuz regional state after the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front took power in 1991. Their claim to the entire Matakel zone has fueled Gumuz militia attack on non-Gumuz residents. The militia want to protect the Gumuz 30-year root of the region. The attacks has been aggravated by recent land grabs by Amhara and other non-indigenous investors who want to control the zone's agricultural and mining sector. Many Gumuz people have been displaced and they are not happy that the investors are hiring non-Gumuz workers to aid in their occupation of an area that is rich in resources like gold, marble, fertile agricultural land. So let's look at the regional interest with all this. So there are also Sudanese and Egyptian interests to consider here. Both countries are supposed to the second filling of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam without negotiation. The dam is in Guba, one of the 6 districts in Matakel. Guba is the closest district to Sudan. Both Egypt and Sudan argue that the dam affects the flow of the river Nile. Waters into the respective countries. Ethiopia started filling the dam, which is over 70% complete, in July 2020 and is getting ready for the second filling in July 2021. Sudan's recent claim to Matakel and particularly to Guba district has shocked the region. The claim stems from the relief that Guba was gifted to Emperor Menelik II of Ethiopia, who reigned from 1889 to 1913, by the Caliph Abdullahi, a Sudanese Mahdist leader, in 1897. The boundary was confirmed in 1902 by Ethiopia and Sudan. On the other hand, Egypt considered the dam a major threat to its food security. This is because the Blue Nile, which originates from Ethiopia, supplies up to 80% of the Nile waters. Ethiopia has accused both Sudan and Egypt of sponsoring Gomor's militia attacks to jeopardize the construction and filling of the dam. So let's take a look at the local factors. So finally, Banishango Gomez local government officials have owned up to orchestrating ethnic targeted killings in Matakel as pushed back Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's new Prosperity Party, which replaced Ethiopia's former ruling coalition, the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front. The officials believe that the Prosperity Party, to which they now belong, wants to eliminate the existing federal arrangement which guarantees self-rule to ethnic groups in the country. The Gomors enjoy administrative rights over Matakel zone, but if the ethnic federal framework is altered by the Prosperity Party, that would affect the interest of the majority Gomors community profoundly. They encourage attacks on the non-Gomors inhabitants who they felt would gain the upper hand in the administrative of the Matakel zone if the current federal arrangement were to be altered. In the end, the violence in Western Ethiopia is a confluence of local, regional, international, and possibly foreign interest. So let's look at the moving forward, the way forward. The Matakel zone has been placed under a command post that is directly responsible to the Prime Minister, but attacks and tensions remain high. The violence might have ethnic undertones, but this is a political conflict at heart. The Amara claim should be handled through constitutional means, not by force, and all the ethnic groups in the Matakel zone should be protected and their issues addressed lawfully. The diplomatic dispute with Sudan and Egypt should be solved through dialogue, and the dam negotiations should proceed amicably. So this is the way forward, we're still looking at the violence and all that. So let's move to the president's extension of his term in Somali. So Prime Minister rejects the proposed extension of president's term in office and calls for elections to be held. Somalia's President Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed will address the nation on Tuesday after 2 key states rejected an extension of his terms in office, and the Prime Minister asked the country to prepare for elections. Those delay has led to the worst political violence in Mogadishu for years. Civilians have fled their homes in Somali capital following renewed clashes between rivals fractions in the security forces, which have split in a dispute over 2 years extension to the term of Mohammed, who is better known as Farmajo. Tensions have been high since February, when Farmajo's 4-year term ended before fresh elections were held amid disagreement over how to proceed the polls. The president accused regional leaders over the impasse, but his opponent accused him of refusing to leave office. Earlier this month, Somali's lower house of parliament voted to extend Farmajo's term, but the Senate rejected the move. Still, the president signed the contentious measures extending his mandate and promised elections within 2 years. On Tuesday, Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein Rebel rejected the extension shortly after the leaders of the two federal states. Elsewhere, allies of the president issued a joint statement calling for the cancellation of the term extension. I welcome the statement issued by Gomudan and Habesbel states, said the Prime Minister, who also called for the preparation of the two presidential election and a beefing up to security arrangements. The presidential term extension has also angered foreign donors who have backed Farmajo's government in an attempt to bring stability to the country that has been racked by civil war since 1991. Most of the United Nations-backed talks failed to overcome the elections impasse, and the dispute turned violent on Sunday as forces loyal to the president traded gunfire with fighters allied to his political rivals. Most soldiers, on the other hand, in Somalia's armed forces owe their loyalties to clan militia, which have often battled each other for power and resources. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called on all parties to refrain from further violence, while the United States, a key ally, warned of sanction if negotiations for elections do not urgently resume. Police said on Monday that 3 people, 2 police officers and 1 opposition soldier were killed in these skirmishes. The opposition, which includes soldiers from the National Army fighting for opposition leaders from their own clan, controls part of the city with roads barricaded and territory guarded by the trucks mounted with machine guns. It has raised fear that the Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab fighters could exploit a security vacuum as state forces turn on each other. So the fears of our life, fears of the lives of the Somalians are really what they're talking about. So tension remained on high on Tuesday as families in some Mogadishu districts began evacuating their homes, peeling their belongings into rickshaws or donkeys carts ahead of the feared return to violence. This is a horrible situation Mogadishu is facing today. People are fleeing their homes because of this increased military tension, said Saeed Ali, a witness. Residents in Sigali, a neighborhood in northern Mogadishu, said opposition reinforcements arrived overnight and has taken up positions not far from government troops. We fear for our lives. We have decided to get out of here before it is too late, said Shamish Ahmed, a mother of 5 who abandoned her home. This morning, we were surprised to see more well-armed pro-opposition troops have settled in this area of Sigali. They told us to move, said Abdullahi Mohammed, a local elder. The UN mission in Somalia said it was alarmed by clan divisions within the Somali National Army and warned the political conflict distracted from the battlefield where the Al-Shabaab fighters are waging a deadly uprising. So use of security forces for pursuit of political objectives is unacceptable, the UNSOM said in a statement. So let's look at the precipice. The country has not had effective central government since the collapse of a military regime in 1991 that led to the decades of civil war and lawlessness fueled by clan conflict. Mogadishu, one of the few parts of the country under the central government control, has not seen strict combat on this scale for years, and the conflict has dangerously sharpened the clan division, observers say. In a briefing published on Tuesday, The International Crisis Group linked tank said that external intervention is needed to prevent further fighting between rival actors. The African Union AU, which has signaled that it will name a Somalian convoy to mediate efforts over the stalled election cycle, should move forward on this with speed and get effort to bridge the chasm between the President Farmajo and the opposition started as quickly as possible, it said, adding that it should focus on initiating a ceasefire. International actors must signal a willingness to punish spoilers, including through targeted sanctions. External actors who pursue narrow bilateral interests by backing certain factions within Somalia further risk tipping the balance towards implosion. The U.S., possibly through its new appointed special convoy to the Horn, to lean on all outside powers to press for the escalation. So this is where I end the editorials. My name is Sandra Asande. Thank you so much for watching. You should have a great day.